Hello, welcome to today's episode of Marriage Conflicts with Juliet. I hope you enjoyed the previous episode and anticipating for today's episode. Remember, I'll be discussing these topics with Chris. Let's x-ray common mistakes couples make preparatory to marriage. Welcome, Chris.
Nice to be here.
Selfishness. When a partner makes choices and decisions that benefit them alone, regardless of considering how it would affect the other partner, is considered to be selfishness. Selfishness and jealousy works pari passu, but there is an extreme difference between selfishness and jealousy. In selfishness, the couple tends to make their desires above every other desire, not minding how it would affect his spouse. Some men who are very selfish tend not to consider their spouse in their plannings, especially when they are after a certain goal. Example are some men who could go as far as acquiring certain properties without the knowledge of their spouse. Some other men stack up huge amounts of money somewhere without the knowledge of their spouse. These affect marriages in so many ways. One has to acknowledge that they are selfish and admit it if they really want to help themselves to stop being selfish. Some men who are seeking for a life partner could hide these acts of selfishness of theirs. Without the woman's knowledge, the woman cannot know that this man is a selfish kind of a human being. Of course, some people cannot hide it. But those who go as far as hiding it from their spouse, after the marriage, the lady finds out that she married a very selfish human being. There is tendency that the marriage cannot hold waters. Of course, no woman wants to be with a man who thinks highly of himself without considering how the woman thinks about herself as well. So when a man is selfish, you find the man going extra mile to annoy his spouse unknowingly because of his selfish nature. Selfishness is one of the major enemies of married love and love within the family. It affects how people or how couples relate to each other, how they resolve conflicts, and even how they spend quality time. It can prevent a couple from growing together in love and marriage. Selfishness is one of the major obstacles in marital communication and thereby harms the marital friendship. One of the ways to know if your marriage is heavily loaded by selfishness. Number one, failing to listen. When one of the spouses fail to listen to the other spouse complaints, there is always a problem because there is a bridge in communication. Failing to respect the views and opinion of the other spouse, especially the man. They feel, their pride. They feel they are the head of the house and no one should tell them anything, that what they say holds. Whatever thing they say stands. Is always a problem. It is good that the husband respects and appreciates the opinion of the wife, so that the union will be complete, the love will be complete. Like they said, respect you, rather you can respect someone's respect. it works in marriage. Also, difficulty communicating with your spouse, you know, when there is breach in communication. The wife finds it difficult to communicate with her husband, to tell him what she needs and what she don't want. It becomes a problem because even when the man is offending the woman, he doesn't even know that he's offending his wife because the wife cannot just talk to him about it. Controlling and manipulating behavior. People who are selfish tend to control their spouse. And it is a very wrong thing to do in marriage because if the woman is this kind of a woman that wouldn't want to take all that, the marriage cannot hold. So it is important that every man, you check yourself. Sit down and analyze yourself. Ask yourself some questions. Always consider your spouse in everything you want to do, because the moment you say I do to someone, or the moment you're in a relation to someone, you should know that it's no longer all about you, one person. It is now about we, two persons. And when the marriage is being blessed with children, the man should now consider himself, his wife, and his children. They are now a family. Chris, what do you think?
Well, I agree with you. What you have said is affecting both male and female. However, I will just add one or two points. As it affects the female folk, that moment when she observes herself being, pushing the man in the direction of that which will benefit only her and not the two of them. She should watch it at that time. Those are tendencies. Those are indication that um, she's selfish. That moment when, even as it involves the families, what she's more interested is as it concerns her and her own family. No matter the sentiment, no matter the reason, everybody has inclination to their family. But to a large extent, the female should do everything possible to encourage the man, even when your personal interest is involved, even when you have personal interest in something. There's a way you can you can manipulate the man. Yes, I will use the word manipulate. There's a way you can manipulate the man and you get what you want without him feeling that you are selfish, or without him seeing you as being selfish. So it is advised that at that point, when you notice preparatory to wedding or to your marriage rights, everything is about you. All the demands is about you. You should watch it. Keep in mind that the man may be taking note of these things, and these are mostly things that cause problem in the marriage, especially at the beginning, at the early stage, early life of the marriage. So women or young ladies who are aspiring to be married should be mindful of the kind of pressure they put on the man as a result of their selfish interest. They should also make the man feel that they are in it together with them.
All right. Well appreciated. Let's go to another point, which is poor knowledge of his role as a man. In quote, husband in African setting. Prior to marriage, like we said in the previous episode, some men are not mature enough to know what is required of them as the role of a man at home. Men are said to be the head of the family and women the neck. Because the men are not mature enough to know what it entails, they tend not to play their role as the head of the home. In African culture, characterized by traditional ideology and masculine beliefs, declinates men as brave, noble, emotional, and intelligent. They are classified to be strong. Thus, they must be intentional about handling their home, facing all the challenges and overwhelming events in their home. Every challenges that comes up in their home as a married man, he should be able to handle it and handle it appropriately. Some men, because of their immaturity in handling marriage issues, tend not to meet up with their role as a man in the home. For instance, some men, after they married a woman and they find out that, this particular lady is doing so well, or she's financially capable, they slack back. They relax and wait for the woman to take charge of the house. All the financial challenges in the home, he wants the wife to take care of it while he sit back and relax. Some men cannot even stand up for their woman, for their wife. They cannot even defend their homes. Instead of being at the forefront, they are at the back, and then the wife will be waging the war for them. Some men as well find it very difficult to strive on daily basis. That's why in some Igbo adages they say, "Nwaanyị ọ na-agwọ ndị ara." Some families, when they find out that their son is incapacitated or non-capable to take care of himself, they say, "Let us look for a woman who would make him responsible, who would help him to take care of himself and also run a home." They begin to look for a wife. This kind of men cannot stand up for themselves, not to talk about standing up for their family members. So it is a problem that the men have to work on themselves. Such men that find themselves in this situation have to work on themselves to ensure that they get a perfect knowledge of what being a man or what it means to be a husband in African context. They need to know the perfect way they can handle or shoulder their responsibilities as a man of the house. It is also important that women look out for such men and either decide to marry this man knowing his shortcomings or avoid marrying him at all, so that if she willingly goes into the marriage, she have known that this is what I am signing up for. And okay, I am going to be the man and the woman as well and stand up for it. And not when she's not aware of it, she will now go into the marriage and want to rush out of the marriage. Chris, what do you think?
I agree partly that men have a major role in family. However, it is important that women understand that God has given them that natural power. They are naturally endowed to help the man become better. The scriptures reminds us, or made us to understand that God made Adam to go to sleep, to fall into a deep sleep. And from him, he made Eve. And ever since, the rising and falling of Adam is ascribed to Eve. Therefore, women say that they are the neck, and what this loosely translates to is that the man is the head, whether it is the empty head or something else. So it is the neck that holds the head and the body. This is natural role given to the woman. Therefore, women or young women aspiring to become wives need to understand that for the home, for there to be peace in a home, it is in her hand. For the home to be in pieces, is also in her hands. Africa has a very rich culture, which confers on the woman the powers of homemaker. The woman has a natural power to determine whether the home is peaceful or in pieces or broken, as the case may be. In the African culture, a woman naturally gets her husband to abide by the rules in the family. Women know how to achieve this. In African culture, the wife or the woman is naturally her husband's mother, or automatically becomes her husband's mother. Therefore, she should nurse the man. She should manage the man to her own advantage. The message here for aspiring wives or young women who are aspiring to become wives is that they should seek to understand the role of a wife in the African setting, not to borrow what obtains in the advanced countries. Yes, it is good that to an extent you need to borrow a leaf from what obtains in the Africa in the other settings in Europe, in America. But let us not forget that we have different traditions. Certain things obtain in such climate but does not obtain in our climate. And that is why in the African tradition or in the African culture, our forefathers have what they call tradition. Tradition is like a law, a rule that guides our day-to-day practice. But the Oyibo people call it law. So when we abide by our tradition in the African setting, the homes become more peaceful. So any young lady that wishes to be a wife or is preparing to become somebody's wife and is modeling herself or her marriage or is looking forward to to model her marriage after a certain Oyibo marriage, you are already preparing to fail. As you know, when you fail to plan, when you prepare little or fail to prepare well, you are planned to fail. So you should watch it at that point when the only thing that is on your mind is how to become a feminist, how to drag the lines with your husband, or that moment when your fiance is taking a position and you are also pushing him on certain paths. You should learn how to manage the man. You should understand that Africa has a rich culture as it affects man. And just as my co-discussant Juliet mentioned, it is more of in Africa. It is more of the man's world. But then the women are able to manage the man to achieve their purpose. So So it is when you understand your role as an African woman and as a wife in the African setting that you achieve more, you succeed more. Keep in mind that the rising cases of divorce and separation in marriages these days can be attributed to the modeling of our relationships or marriages after a foreign culture. So we should seek to practice what is unique to us in Africa.
Thank you, Chris. You nailed it. Poor knowledge of the man's role in a home. The issue cannot be overemphasized. So let's look at the next one: spiritual irresponsibility. Spiritual irresponsibility could be termed a man not taking charge of his spiritual well-being. When you are not spiritually at alert, as a man, it is your responsibility to take care of your home. It is your responsibility to hold the bridge for members of your family. How is your spiritual life? When you are spiritually irresponsible, how will your family fare as a man? What can we call a person who doesn't plan ahead? That person is spiritually irresponsible. How would you describe a man who doesn't consider the long-lasting implication of his actions? What about a person who ignores his duties given to him in life as the head of the home? We could sum all this as being spiritually irresponsible. What about a man who takes everything his man of God or woman of God tells him hook, line, and sinker without verifying it from the Word of God, which is the Bible? When a man is spiritually irresponsible, it affects everything happening at home. Some men pay more listening ear to the man of God than their spouse. For instance, when a man of God tells this particular man that we're going to come for a family cleansing in your house and you're going to pay us a sum of 1 million or any other amount they mention, this man, instead of taking advices from his wife to decide if they're going to continue with that prayer the man of God is requesting to hold in their home, he would go ahead and source for the cash if he doesn't have it to pay this man of God, regardless of how the home will fare after he has taken that action. Some of these men don't even look back at how their children will feed or how their wives will dress, so long as the church is doing well. They give in millions in the church just for their name to be heard, or because the man of God said, okay, God loves a cheerful giver. Make your donations and be blessed. Some men of God go as far as promising people to give even when they don't have, with the hope of getting it in the nearest future. These things are pure lies. Very, very untrue. So spiritual responsibility affects men who don't look back in listening to what their pastors or pastresses says. Now, taking a leaf from the Bible, I'll tell you the story about Jacob and Esau. When they were teens or at their early 20s, one day Esau returned from hunting and smelling amazing stew that Jacob was preparing, he went to Jacob and requested for it. After he has had a long day tracking game, Esau was apparently so hungry that he was willing to give Jacob his birthright just to have that meal. What exactly was the birthright? It was his legal honor given to him as the first son or the firstborn, which consists of his position and supremacy in the family. That's the head of the household. Household based on sibling level, not as a married man. A double portion of inheritance, spiritual responsibility in the family. You know, Jacob and Esau were twins, but Esau was born first. So the birthright is rightfully his. But in those days, there was no priesthood rights and privileges, as well as a pastoral responsibility. It's just this birthright, first son responsibility that is apparent. But you know, Esau, because he was hungry, his brother Jacob requested for his birthright to give him the meal. He accepted wholeheartedly, just to fill his tummy. At that particular point in time, he has changed his destiny. Was he spiritually responsible? You know what he has done affects his family. Bringing it back to our everyday life. Any man who behaves like Esau already have a problem, because if he eventually marries tomorrow, he is no longer the first son. And whatever inheritance that is accrued to him is already being shifted to the next son, which means his wife, his children are never going to benefit from all he's supposed to gain as the first son. It is important that every man should stand up for themselves at every point in time when it comes to their spiritual life. Have a grip of your life. Be responsible. Take charge of yourself, no matter the challenges, so that you don't make your woman to be to suffer in the future. Because this woman might not even know what you have done in the past. And when she finally accepts to marry you, it becomes a problem. And when she finds out about all the things you've done in the past, she might decide to leave if she's not the kind that would want to stay with you. So, dear men, take charge of your spiritual well-being. Do not bring in a woman into your home to suffer. It is not right. Chris, let's have your view on spiritual responsibility.
I agree with you on your point as regards men on spiritual responsibility. There is this saying that family that prays together stays together. I want to take off from that point. Young ladies preparing to become wives or to get married sometimes become irresponsible spiritually. They miss the point. They forget that they are spiritually endowed, that they are naturally empowered to determine the future or wherever they are moving, the direction they are moving. That is why in the African culture, you have more of goddesses. This means that you have most deities in, ascribed to women because they are more powerful, they are more spiritually powerful than the male folk. When a woman or a young woman intending to become a wife, preparing for marriage, does not make spiritual consultations, sometimes we lose touch of what we should focus on. You don't care, yours is to go to ask maybe your pastor or your daddy GOs, as they call them. You ask about the future of the man. They don't give you details about the background. There are a lot of spiritual matters that you need to inquire about regarding your prospective husband or the suitor or your fiance. A lot of ladies do go to church, do go to consult, but they miss the point. They get carried away by when they tell them that this guy is going to become a governor in future or that he has a bright future. But they will not tell you that there are some other things at the background. So they get carried away and they forget critical spiritual matters. Any young lady who gets into marriage without asking deeper questions, without sitting down with the man to inquire certain things about the family history spiritually, they will have a serious problem. At that moment, when it becomes all about what the man of God says and not what the two of you agrees, you sit down to agree, because spiritual consultations are good. And after the consultations, you are required to sit together to review the outcome of such consultations. You're supposed to discuss with your intending partner and agree and disagree. Agree, disagree to agree. You come to a common point because it involves the two of you. So far, the both of you have agreed to live together.
I agree with you, in spiritual responsibility. I think both hands have to be on deck for every marriage to work, every spiritual well-being of the marriage to be properly handled. Just like you said, family that prays together and lives together is important. So I advise every young man and young lady out there wanting to tie the knot to work on their spiritual being. It is very important. Thank you, Chris, my co-discussant. Thank you, my viewers, for watching today's episode. Look out for the next episode. You can also like and share this video for the sake of restoring peace and harmony in many homes in the world. See you next time. Bye.